We are recording. Guys, thank you so much for watching Tommy Untamed. We got a great guest today with Mr. Will Ramsey on Thursday, March 20th, 2025, 12:13 p.m. Eastern Time. And for people that are curious, the people that produce my company, it's called Untamed, so I just have to do a little read. But Mr. Ramsey's been on here a zillion times before. If you guys would please go in the description, please go follow him on Twitter. Please go buy his books. He's an incredible researcher. He came on a month ago, a month and a half ago, and we talked about the Knights of Malta. And today we're going to talk about the Pilgrim Society. Another thing where, I mean, you could almost copy and paste the intro I gave last time, where I said it's something I loosely know about in terms of like, the whole milieu of, basically secretive or extra nation state or supra nation state power. But I don't know anything about it. It's just they're all kind of the same to me. And you had just asked if we're gonna do a show on the pyramid. Last night I saw a video, I think it only been out for a couple hours, about how they found 8 columns below the Great Pyramids, each that goes 648 meters down, and then below that there are 2 cubes that go an additional 1,400 meters down for a total of 2 kilometers straight down. I love that. That's like inject that into my veins. And you had just asked, am I going to do a show on it? This morning I woke up and I sent it to some of my friends who love that shit too. And one of them was like, yeah, I'll hold my breath. And I was like, that's actually probably a good, I don't know anything about this. I have no idea if in a week it's like, yeah, I remember that hoax. So it's super cool. It's like sci-fi movie cool, but it's probably, I mean, we can always do an episode and speculate wildly, but it's probably a better idea to just wait a minute. So that's my answer to you, Mr. Will Ramsey.
Tommy, good to be with you again. Thanks for the invite.
Yes, sir.
And really enjoyed our last show on the Knights of Malta. Still learning stuff about them and the Pilgrim Society
Yeah,
as well.
it's the best compliment I can give you is I actually listened to our episode. I never listened to my show. Well, one, because I did it, I already know what it's about, and two, I just don't like listening to me run my mouth. I actually listened to our show. That's how
Nice.
much I enjoyed it. So that's like the highest compliment I can give you. Um, but yeah, just take it away. What is the Pilgrim Society?
It's a very influential group of people in the Anglo American. They talk about the kind of Anglo American establishment. I think this is part of it. Is this kind of group that was started in 1902, and it was back when Pilgrims maybe didn't have such kind of maybe a bad name as it does today. Being called a Pilgrims has a tinge of negativity to it, but I think back then it was a positive thing, and the group is its influence really comes from the royal family, and the current kind of patron of the Pilgrim Society is King Charles III, and formerly is Queen Elizabeth, his mother, but it has just this roster of incredible figures that are so important to 20th century history. And it kind of overlaps with the Knights of Malta. This is a public organization. You can go to their website. You can see they don't really divulge their members like the Knights of Malta, but you can kind of see some of the heads and some of the people who are running the operation or running the Pilgrim Society. But it is really something else. And when you consider just these names that are involved in that are known names of members, the Dulles brothers, Luce, Joseph Kennedy, Harriman, these other Sandra Day O'Connor, Kissinger, Mellon, Rockefeller brothers, some of these other Jacob Schiff, who's a banker, and all these other people who were involved in politics and things like that. So the overlap similarities between this group and the Knights of Malta is this kind of concept I think we talked about last time, which is the public diplomacy as opposed to private. So this would be kind of private diplomacy between people who meet often, and two members automatically who become members of the Pilgrim Society are ambassadors. So the ambassador from the U.S. to the it's called St. James's Court, is always a member of the Pilgrim Society and always gives speeches. And then the opposite's the same. So the ambassador to the U.S. becomes a member of the Pilgrim Society. It's very exclusive, very elite, and they have lavish dinners at very, fancy, rich places like the Waldorf Astoria and stuff like that. But there's a lot of important members and a lot of people around today who do not divulge their membership. The membership was somebody went to one of their offices and photocopied it and put it in their library. And so somebody in London, and so somebody got these membership lists, and some of them are very interesting. Some people that you may know, Tucker Carlson is a member, but he does not. He's never publicly stated he's a member of this group. But I think he's probably obtained a lot of advantages by being networked with a lot of these people. I think that he's kind of like an old kind of Eastern WASP family, comes from those kind of people. So that's one person we know of today. But all the others, obviously, King Charles III, very much involved in this whole sustainability, population control, or population murder, or whatever you want to call it. But like as he is his, and you see these other members. I have a pretty ornate slideshow containing a lot of pictures of these guys, and a lot of these landed gentry from the aristocracy of Britain are involved in there. And the epicenter is the city of London, right? So this kind of city within a city in London, much like the Vatican or Washington, D.C., is really this epicenter of this group and the people who are in the group. And it's kind of goes vaunt, this kind of notion of the city of London as having this banking power. You have to remember that the start of this group was really at the apex of the British Empire before World War One. So back then, and I'm old enough to kind of remember the Bank of England, who all are members of the Pilgrim Society, by the way. Bank of England had a lot more financial power than it does today. So after the two world wars, England and the empire receded or declined pretty rapidly. Actually, they were exhausted, and the U.S. took its place. But this is really an interesting group because it's an influential group of very influential people, and you kind of see this kind of carrying on this kind of the members carried on this tradition of, I think, in the British Empire from the U.S. perspective. So the post World War II meddling in affairs, global affairs, much like Albion, as England was known, or perfidious Albion was doing back in the day, all over the world. I mean, the famous line is, "The sun never set
Mm-hmm.
on the British Empire," which really they owned a quarter of the landmass of the world. And they're still meddling around. They're involved. They've always had some kind of antipathy for the Russians and stuff like that, and they're meddling in this this really a World War III, undeclared World War III that's happening right now. But I think that it's important. Like, this is a group that, even though it's you can hear about it, its activities are very important. So from 1902, they were involved in a lot of border disputes of Canada. So there's Canadian membership and English American membership. There were issues regarding the Panama Canal that were discussed in this group and associated, which is interesting because the Panama Canal is back in the news today under Trump. There were issues about the Spanish-American War, if you remember that, like there were fights in Cuba that involved Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, and things like that. These were also members. So these were things where probably still to this day they're discussing current events, current issues, and resolving without kind of the public's involvement or people who were part of any public diplomatic groups, like the Secretary of State or things like that. So I think it's an interesting, and it actually, if you take the kind of follow back the Pilgrim Society to the city of London, it has this kind of similarity going all the way back, because the Temple Church, which is the core church that some of these guys are involved with, is modeled on the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. And it's kind of interesting because you see that Knights of Malta go back to Jerusalem as well. So this church, of which the Pilgrim Society springs out of the center of London, is a core element of this kind of Pilgrim Society nexus of power.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a new or novel idea that these organizations kind of, I don't know, not quite I guess maybe parasitic, but these things do seem to, the broad general idea of the back room. It seems to not be new and not ever going away. And it's not always, I know for me, it's like I look at a lot of this stuff and I'm like, yeah, people aren't walking around in cloaks anymore. And it's like it doesn't need to be. You can have iPhones and like self-driving cars. These organizations still, it's a pattern. It's like what Alan Watts said about whirlpools in the river. It's like the same water molecule never goes through it twice, but it's a pattern, and it's there the next day and the next day and the next day. That's what these things kind of seem like, patterns that swell up on the sides of the scaffolding of society that we see, your state legislatures and your federal and your but these things always just sort of almost look they're like little eddies that come off the side. And by by virtue of the fact that they keep it secret, tells you that they know it's probably not it wouldn't be signed off on if everyone knew about it. So what is interesting is what they do volunteer. So they do show us that they exist. That has to be some sort of compromise that it was worked, somebody worked it out or rationalized it, that the least worst thing is for us to have some idea that they exist. And you and I might go, how is that beneficial? Because most people don't approve of secret societies. Somewhere in the compromise, they know that it is better for us to know a little bit than nothing, which is an interesting idea.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And it's interesting because it actually, the Pilgrim Society kind of comes up in a recent conversation between um, Keir Starmer and Trump, where he mentions he's giving the speech in the Oval Office, I think it was, but he's like, we have a special relationship. And this is part of that special relationship. And Trump cut him off right away. Like he wasn't having it. So Trump may not be as polite as these other, and this is an Anglo-American, so it's kind of more wide Anglo set. Well, you can't really call it fully Protestant, but it's more of kind of a WASP power network. But it is interesting that Keir Starmer brought that up and Trump cut him off because that special this group is kind of like the maintenance of that special relationship. And
Yeah,
like I said earlier, if you look at the 20th century, America and the Britain is all over world power and world history.
yeah. Yeah, and it's, coincidentally JFK in the news, of the many things he did, but the very word secrecy is repugnant, right? He didn't like that. And it is interesting that, yeah, no, you bring that up and Trump's kind of
Is
like, yeah, no, fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah,
We're not
right.
doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Trump is kind of like saying over it, but it is interesting because JFK's dad is a member of the Pilgrim Society. He was the ambassador to the court of St. James's
Yeah.
Court during
Yeah.
World War II.
Yeah.
So,
Joking. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, big mafia guy, bootlegger. Yeah.
And so that may be why his son got his head blown off in November 22nd, 1963, is because he wasn't going with the program. He
Yeah.
wasn't going
Bucking
with
the
these
system.
guys. Yeah.
And a cynical way to look at it is, I mean, maybe I'm just naive. I do think I do think JFK is a good man, and I do believe his heart was in the right place. But it's not necessarily exclusive to all throughout history. You do kind of see again that pattern of the person that comes out and exposes or attempts to expose or bucks the existing power structure is often from that power structure. Now, you could say that they're doing it because they have a crisis of conscience. Sure. Also, just tactically, if you were to look at it, if you wanted to usurp the throne, that's how you do it. Like if I was involved with this and I'm like, man, I want to be king. The easiest way, and it's the biggest bet. It's also the quickest way to get your head blown off, is to learn as much about it as you can and then step out, go to the common man and be like, look at this fucking system. I'm going to relieve you of it. And whether or not my intentions are pure, the end result is it's a new power. Now I get to be king. And what do you think I'm going to do? Of course I'm going to set up a secret society. So a cynical way of looking at it is like JFK was just a new node of power sort of bucking the system.
Yeah, I
Could
think
could have
so.
been that he truly believed in a more equitable world. I hope he did. It's what a beautiful thing. It makes me think of Far Cry 4, the video game. You're in India and you're helping them overthrow like the dictator. And it doesn't matter who you help. There's two different guerrilla factions and there's two different endings to the game. Both people that eventually end up winning, they take the throne and it does like a time lapse and then they make all their own death squads. They make all
Wow.
their own temples.
Right.
And at the end of it, you're like, what was it all for? And it did start with like, we want to be free. And very quickly, the power just corrupts, and you go, what was it all for? And then it's actually the main character, the original bad guy, Pagan Ming. He gives you a speech right before you kill him, and he's like, "What do you think is going to happen?" And it's like, "Well, they're going to overthrow the power and give it back to the people." And he's like, "That's a very noble thought. What do you think is going to happen?" And sure enough, the new freedom fighters just become the new dictators. So I don't know, and it could very well be like that's all that Trump is. That's all that Trump and Elon are. It's and
Right.
I hope and pray that they're doing it for the right reasons. It could very well just be that this is a coup. Sorry, I won't keep derailing you.
You're right. You're right, though. But it is like, how much have they really changed? I mean, they're paring back the government. Obviously, there's
Yeah.
massive corruption. Hundreds of billions, if not trillions, of dollars are
The
missing. Like,
quickest
we've
way
been
to
totally
usurp the
looted.
throne is be like, look
Yeah.
how evil these fuckers are.
Yeah. Right. They are evil. I
Yeah.
mean, the Biden, the Biden administration. It's like everything about like the descriptive words are fake because
Yeah.
you can't really call Biden. Somebody else is running the show.
Yeah.
Like, it's either Obama or Obama's crew or whatever.
Yeah.
But that administration was rotten to the core. I mean, holy smokes. But it's interesting, like this whole notion of like taking over the throne. And maybe these are the type of people that JFK insulted, very powerful networks. Luce is involved in the Pilgrim Society, Dulles. So these two guys' hands are all over the JFK assassination, which again is in the news. 80,000 pages, right? 80,000 pages released. Luce bought the Zapruder film. That was Time Life, which back in the day, much more powerful newspaper. I mean, magazines and newspapers have declined in authority. But you have to remember, they really deceived the public for decades and able to do it. There are very few people. Now it's kind of like if you did a poll, like 85% of the public would say JFK was killed. But back then it was like, oh, we have a lone nut who
No,
did it,
no,
right?
absolutely.
And Dulles is a very powerful figure. So he's networking with so many people. Dulles is really, I mean, was it The Devil's Chessboard, that book by
Yeah.
Talbot,
Yeah. I've
really
read
goes
that
in, but
David. Yeah.
his hands are all over the JFK
Well,
killing.
but also, and it's like it could also be that it could be that JFK, it could be that Trump, it could be that Elon, it could be that their intentions are pure. They really do look at this and go, "This is a satanic system," and we're it might be that that's how these things happen, and then but then it's just back to the old whirlpool. Well, they eventually get old and die, and then there's a new power structure. Who does a power structure attract? It attracts people that want power, and then me and my buddy Clay, Clay's special forces guy and an author, we were talking that like from our point of view, it's like, so man, am I naive cheering on Trump and Elon? We eventually kind of came to the same conclusion of like, I'm not naive. I know that they're also after the global throne, but one group wants gay communism where we eat the bugs, and the other group wants space fascism. I'm like, the space fascism one kind of seems better for me. And so, in terms of just making a compromise, I'm like, listen, I'm not saying Trump and Elon are saints. They don't want to depopulate me. So, I can still grow old and have a family. Yeah, there'll be a space fascism thing. Okay. But the other one openly wants to kill me. So I'm going to the one that just like wants to kill me less. And there is kind of like a compromise in that. You're not going to overthrow you and I aren't going to overthrow the trillionaires. One group doesn't want me ground into paste yet. And I'm like, okay, that's I'll go with that one. It's it's
It's an
it's a,
obvious choice. I mean,
it's
it's
a
an obvious
there are
choice for
no
me.
solutions, there are only
Yeah.
trade-offs. Thomas Sowell, right? So it's yeah. But
These people, like, I mean, I think that Charles III is really one of the most sinister people of the 20th century, with his connections to so many people. Savile, Epstein, his brother. His brother lost. I mean, his brother, like his mommy, the queen, had to pay off Virginia Giuffre 12 million quid or 12 million pounds for that. Like, it's a huge sum. I think that was the settlement. And that was just one victim, you know. And that whole case, which ties into Dershowitz, because she sued all kinds of people, Giuffre, and obviously Ghislaine Maxwell. But it ties into this whole story because this is like the throne of England, right? This kind of seat of power. And Charles III is involved in this depopulation. There's no question about it. So maybe the fact that Trump is bucking this whole special relationship is the benefit. I would get out of NATO. I would just never give money to Ukraine. It's not an independent country. People don't get, some of these propagandized people don't get it, but it's there because the U.S. did it. This U.S. power under the quote Biden administration unquote.
Of course it is.
Yeah, but we're risking nuclear war literally at the end, before Trump won the election, before they could steal it. We were really at the precipice of end of human civilization in the northern hemisphere.
When Russia launched the Oreshnik, that essentially the ICBM, when you saw those MIRVs coming straight down, had never been fired in warfare before. Even tests of MIRVs, which are the multiple independent reentry vehicles, those were all classified up until like the early 2000s. When I saw that video of those things, and it wasn't a missile coming in over the horizon straight down, meaning it was from orbit, I looked at that and immediately thought, like, do I need to leave? Like, all my extended family lives up in the mountains. I was thinking, I was like, it's like 11 p.m. I was like, that's never. I was like a Cold War geek. You know, everyone's like, oh, Russia's busting out the new tech, and then you have like the Slava-Ukrainian retards who are like, there's no bobs on it. I was just looking at that. I'm like, that has never happened in warfare. I was legitimately thinking, like, do I need to like get my gun, fuel up, and leave? It was an insane escalation that we kind of just sidestepped, and we're all like, all right. It's like that was the second Cuban Missile Crisis.
Sure was,
but it just happened very quickly. Instead of 13 days, it happened over the course of like hours. But apparently, they warned NORAD beforehand so that we wouldn't start launching. Like, that's an insane thing that happened that we're all just
insane gambit. Like, it's like they're gambling with all of human life. That's how insane the Biden administration was. Like, out of their freaking minds. Like, total, lunacy beyond. There should have been a commission. There should be arrests of all these people. I don't know what the heck Trump administration's doing. These are overt criminals, like war criminals, murderers. They filled the cemeteries of millions of people in the Eastern Europe, and nobody said they're sorry. By the way, that's like the true sign of demonic sociopathy or whatever. Is like, wow, guys, sorry we took us all the way almost to getting your whole cities and civilization annihilated in your family. We're just moving on. You know, the cockroaches ran under the freaking refrigerator and they're still there. That's what's really should scare everybody. The cockroaches are still under the fridge.
Yeah, we're all going, man, that was crazy. Remember how many cockroaches there are? It's like, they're right over there.
Yeah.
Like, get the flamethrower.
Yeah. No, send them to El Salvador and put them in that big jail or whatever. People don't understand. The society of America, I would say this over, the whole society cannot survive these people. They are anti-civilization. They're cosmically malevolent. I'm not kidding.
No, they are ticks they're not latched onto your skin. They're on like your aorta. And it's like, dude, you have got to get that thing off. It's just sitting there. Like,
yeah, that guy Bukele had this whole, was it Salvatrucha 13? He had to save the whole civilization. They had to put like 50 or 100,000 people in jails.
But I do think to find the silver lining in this stuff is like, you don't ever want to get that close to society collapsing or just being outright nuked. But if you do get that close and manage to pull back, you are actually so much stronger. It's like getting really sick and having crazy antibodies. And it's like, if you don't die, you preferably you wouldn't get, contract Ebola. If you somehow survive Ebola, man, your immune system is like chrome plated until you die.
Let's hope so, because the American public has no idea generally about the enormity of the situation. They don't get it. We are in World War III. It's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. invaded Russian territory. Mm-hmm. The Kursk invasion is backed by the U.S. It's not a proxy war. That's another baloney lie. They are fighting, but the real power comes from the United States. It doesn't come from NATO. It doesn't come from Europe.
Yeah.
All that funds and everything like that is U.S.
Yeah,
the Russians know it. Yeah, they're never going to get over it.
Yeah,
they're going to view us like they viewed the Nazis justly. Like the American public is in a kind of a Truman Show bubble. They have no clue. And I mean, we can get a whole nother show about USAID and all that. I mean, the the almost like you marvel at the sophistication and total
Oh, it's
control of the American media. It's like,
incredible.
wow.
It's pure evil, but you can't
Yeah.
help but give them a slow clap. You're like, they
You
are
have to marvel at it.
fucking.
Yeah.
They are fucking good.
They've been doing it for decades. Like,
Well,
oh
yeah,
man, they've
no,
gotten away under the system. And I mean, the whole the NGOs funneling money to family members. It's not just Pelosi or Biden. It's all of them. Like the default is they're all funneling money through family members to some baloney NGO or foundation that doesn't do any work.
yeah. I would say again, the silver lining though is Trump couldn't do what he's doing if I think we talked about this last time. If it was just 2020 and he just won a second term,
Yeah.
it shit had to be so balls to the wall, in your face, you know, no southern border, just every month 100 zillion to Ukraine, outright blocking of FEMA help to people in North Carolina, trying to blow Trump's head off, the censorship, the vaccine mandates. I think you needed all of that in order to get the kind of routing out we're getting now. And I'm still holding praise because I if Trump and Elon don't do it now, it's over
It's
after.
over. The
It's
whole
it's
civilization's over.
yeah,
America's over.
yeah, in 2020 everyone was saying you got to cross the Rubicon. Now we're in the Rubicon. You got to keep going. You've
Can't.
exposed USAID. You're
Yeah.
exposing all the like now you have to. We're going forward now. So
The
again,
blood sucking tick, like you said, it's on its back. It's like
it's
the alien creature,
yeah.
and it wants to get back on, and that's
And,
why they're
and
all
it's going, I'm
screaming. They want to
sorry,
get
I
back
love
on.
democracy. And it's
Yeah,
like, no, 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 no. I gotta grab that crucifix off the wall. And you
yeah. The
gotta,
power of Christ compels you. It's
yeah, yeah.
almost like The Exorcist.
You can't just stomp on it. You go holy water and, yeah, a
Yeah,
silver cross just right through it.
yeah.
So, like, that's where we're at right now.
We are there. We
Yeah,
are there. They've all been exposed. I mean, it's
yeah,
just like it's a really not a when they say democracy, it's just another code word, but it's really a kleptocracy.
yeah.
It is a bold, in your face stealing of the future. There was a meme, I think it came down like it was a good one. I think it was from the Babylon Bee, but a group of masked invaders steals trillions from your grandchildren. And it really is true. Like the American people, it hasn't sunk in. Like you just listed off like 5 or 10 things that were horrible that happened, but I think the American people haven't got it to their core how evil it was. Once they do, the whole society will change. Like
Mm,
they will have to have arrest, and I don't know if Bondi is the right person for the job. They need to get
no.
somebody from like military who's prosecuted real criminals and get them in there because these are blood sucking criminals. Schumer and McDowell, like it's both parties, guys.
You
Like this
can't,
whole, this
yeah,
whole, like, oh, the Republicans are bad. Oh, no, they're both suck. They're both
yeah.
terrible.
No,
Get a grip on reality.
I don't want to see any. I demanded the files on my desktop. No, roll up with a fucking tactical team in a motorcade of armored trucks and kick down the fucking door.
Absolutely,
Well, I've
absolutely.
demanded it by this time tomorrow because I'm a girl boss. It's not the time for that.
No, no.
It is not the time. I want General Patton. I want old blood. By the glory of God, we will grease the treads of our tanks with their blood and guts. Like
Yeah,
I
you
want
need
that guy
Ulysses
right
S.
now.
Grant. Like, okay,
You
you
march to
want to
the
have a
sea.
war? Like, okay, you're the right
Fucking
guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
you want to yeah.
get Sherman back, get him over
Sherman,
his
let's
nervous breakdown, and send him back out there.
yeah, fucking burn Atlanta for
Kill
good
everything
measure. I don't
all the way.
care. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
And it
that's
ended.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
some people don't know the Civil War, like, but like the early generals for Lincoln were a
they're
joke.
all
Like,
pussies.
yeah, and then he gave it to Ulysses S. Grant, like, hey,
We
you're
had a
in the
bunch of
presidency.
generals who are all waiting for like the pearls, like
Yeah.
McClellan. It was like everything has to
Hooker,
be right,
Hooker
and
was one, like all just
no,
joke generals.
go, red light,
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I completely keep derailing. I'm sorry. Pilgrim Society.
There's a lot to talk about. I think this Pilgrims is part of it, but I mean, I think that it's part of this network that doesn't have the interest of the average person in mind. And I think you have to root out who these people are, especially the Knights of Malta too, because the Knights of Malta are all over the Trump administration. and the Pilgrim Society are around, and these are the people who like killed Kennedy. They didn't. That was a coup, by the way. That what happened in '63. They killed
Well,
so many other people, and all these guys at the top probably knew, like all
well,
the other hits.
well, yeah. It's also just yeah. Smedley Butler warned of it in 33. Eisenhower warned of it in 61, January 61, and then they pulled it off in 63. Like, so when you always go, how come we never hear about the business plot under FDR? How come we never hear it? Well, it's because it's they did it. They pulled it off. There's a reason you don't hear about those other ones because they pulled it off.
Right.
It's how come we don't see the two failed attempts to break into the bank vault? Well, because they finally did break in and then they broke into the security tape room and destroyed all the tapes. So you don't see the first two. Like,
Yeah, no, it's incredible, man. It's incredible the kind of stuff that's happened in the U.S. I mean, I think that the public school system is compromised by a lot of these types of guys too. So it goes back to skull and bones and these elites and not telling you the truth and distracting and propaganda. It's really bad. But I
uh,
think this is important to know because I think Charles III is pulling the strings. I think the royal family is the kind of head, the kind of Milner Society, the Round Table type stuff. These are the ones who have an interest in this Pilgrim Society. I haven't made a direct tie to the Milner Group, but somebody else told me that. I got to go back and look. But these are the kind of guys, that are looking at long term strategic power structure.
th that's the concept that always kind of has always tied a pretzel in my mind is you had the very people that go after these, not go after, I mean, to take down, but to join. The very people that go into these societies, or it's the whole, it's all the buzzword, right? It's they're psychopaths. They have no empathy. They want power. They like power over people. Blah blah blah. The huge narcissists. They all do these things, which are just like the antithesis of all that is good and beautiful. It's just the antithesis of like raising a family and doing the right thing and holding the. It's comically evil. It's like you can do that or you can go dress in a cloak and stab babies, whatever they do. And then though, there's a there's a there's a flip where they work in these societies for these long-term goals that extend far beyond their own death. And it turns into this almost like it's almost funny how it's like the wholesome Illuminati member. It's like, well, listen, I won't see the great Satan rise, but maybe my great grandkids will. And it's just like, but that aren't those traits not present in them? So these weird, it's not immediate power. There are, sure, you get the penthouse, you get the whores and the yacht, they get all that. But a lot of these things, it's like they've been working at this for 200 years. That implies selflessness. That implies like, you know, a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they won't sit under. So you have all these Illuminati members that are like, listen, if we put in the work now, maybe my great great grandkids will be able to eat babies with impunity. And you're just kind of like, what? Which then really starts to make me believe in like, oh, they're doing it for their god, which is Satan. They're going, I'm doing this for the Dark Lord. I don't care if I don't see it, which is just beyond evil. They're like, I don't even care if I get the gold-plated Bentley. I just want to see a global dictatorship. I mean, I don't even
Right. It's
fuck that
scary.
dictatorship.
I mean, that's the way they think. I mean, Crowley, for as a good example, like he didn't think the birth of the Age of Horus would be in his time, but he was thinking about aeonic change, much like Hitler actually wanted aeonic change. The Third Reich only lasted 12 years, but they were thinking on long-term goals, and
No, they wanted
that's
the 1,000 year. They
kind of
wanted all
scary.
the Anna society. They were planning on like excavating every like archaeological site in the world to find ancient Aryan like I don't know like magical runes and shit.
Spear of Longinus and all this
Yeah,
other
yeah,
crap.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all real, man. I mean, Hitler was thinking on long term. So was Crowley. Crowley was wanted to basically upend, maybe just like the communist or whatever, upend society and just into what he thought it was his idea, which is feudalism, and today we call it neo-feudalism. But I think these guys are part of that whole thing. Like the Pilgrim Society is. I mean, this is a inbred. Well, I guess not inbred as much, but the royal family is, basically believes in feudalism. Has a view like that. It's hard to believe, but that's their outlook. We're all peasants. Or the slave shall serve.
The very fact that they have all these long-term goals, it begs the question of, do they not believe they're evil? Do they truly think that they're the tough dad making the tough choice and you hate them now, but one day you'll think, do they think that's who they are? I
It's a good
don't,
question.
you know, they're almost indistinguishable, like a power hungry psychopath or someone that truly believes they know what's best. And in 500 years, my name will be vindicated. But like right now, you're going to hate me, but this is what has to happen. Maybe you truly believe that fucking the ocean's rising and climate change, and you're like, I gotta kill half the people in the world,
Yeah,
and you'll hate me.
I don't think the elite really
No,
believes
they
that.
don't believe it. But I'm
They
just
don't.
as an
They know it's
example.
baloney.
Maybe
Yeah.
you truly believe it. I don't. But then it's the whole, yeah, for the greater good. That's what I always stop myself whenever my thought process goes to, well, you know what? I don't care. It's for the greater good. That's where I always go, no, because that always ends up with just everybody dead.
Yeah, I think they're wound up. I think that these young, like King Charles III, George Bush Jr., I think that they go through this kind of private school system, at least we call it that in the States. They are around other elites. And if they don't back out of it, maybe like JFK did, who was probably, part of this whole thing, they don't back out of it. They're meant to perpetuate this thing, just like you said. We're building it. We're the best. I've put you through the best schools, and I mean, a lot of George Bush's early life is it's an intel legend.
Yeah,
George Bush, it's fake, and it is a great. They never give him credit for how good of an actor he is. He is brilliant.
yeah,
Nobody gives him credit. All the head scratching and dumb words that he puts out, and the Texas accent, it's brilliant. It
yeah.
fooled
That's how you would do it.
99 out of 100 people get fooled by that. Oh, George W. Bush is a dumb. He's a genius. I have to give him credit for pulling off what he did. I mean, it's an evil thing, much like what Charles III did. But I think, like getting back to your point, I think that these elite people are wound up. The school systems, even like Churchill, who for some reason he's lauded as a hero. That guy. I mean, these public school systems are like super classist in England. They beat the crap out of each other. There's sodomy and like almost like satanic ritual abuse, or like they're so severely abused. They're numb to the things, and Churchill could just like bomb freaking Dresden and incinerate kids and massive famines in India where millions of people died and just go, yeah, that's right. We can do that. Much like they can fill the graves in
Yeah, they
Ukraine
don't.
for with a million people. So I think they're wound up for power and to self perpetuate, just like their parents were. So the idea, this kind of idea that maybe the average, maybe middle class person in the states doesn't think of, they're thinking about like daddy's dad. So George Bush is obsessed with his dad and Prescott Bush, all bonesmen. And much like Charles III is thinking about his legacy as a king, and he's, his uncles and parents and lineage going back. They're really Saxe Coburg Gotha. They go back to Germany. They changed their name to the Windsors because of World War One. So it wasn't really great to have a German sounding name at that time. But that's what I think that's really what's happening is these people are wound up in these, that's what's going on.
Doesn't it almost make sense though that this is how it manifests? Like if you ran the Earth simulation a million, let's just assume it gets to Homo sapiens. If you ran the Homo sapiens simulation a million times from like agricultural revolution, if you just kept hitting copy paste and running it, wouldn't like 99 out of 100 times, I'm not even talking about how it ends. It would, does it get through like the nuclear bottleneck, whatever. Doesn't it seem like this is how it would go? Like all the power would accumulate, like this is how it would, this is like what would happen. Like I don't know. like a beaker, like it does eventually come to an equilibrium. It almost seems like the equilibrium is, yeah, all this power, it goes up, it flows upwards, and then that's where it is, and it protects itself. That it almost seems like this is where it goes. It's just might makes right. A bunch of narcissism, probably a lot of, we are the masters of the universe, and they're all reinforcing each other, and they're not even that wrong. They're like, well, we're all the heads of our industry. Like, are we not the best? I wonder though, does it eventually, is it almost a cocoon? Like it gets you there, but in order to go to the next step, whatever the next step of intelligent civilization is, does the cocoon have to break? And it's a weird irony. Maybe you can't get to the cocoon state without all these secret societies. Like if we're all just singing Kumbaya and I don't know, like worshiping pagan gods, it's all well and good. That probably doesn't lead to the iPhone. It probably just leads to like orgies out in the field. Maybe these organizations result in society and organization and progression, but they get you to the finish line. But once you're at the finish line, you got to break them because you can't let it go. It eats itself almost. I don't know if that makes sense.
How many innovations, how many beneficial innovations, and how many things that equalize power or knowledge came out of a society like the Pilgrim Society? Like that's what you have to really ask. Like,
Yeah,
how interested are they in advancing the cause of humanity in
I wouldn't.
general?
I don't think they're interested in advancing the cause. I think their interests of power means pursuing power projection, weapons technology, secrecy. Those things, those needs result in, well, we got to have a way to get this nuke over there. Well, put it on a rocket. All right. And that indirectly pushes pushes it all forward. And then you get to a finish line faster. I think I'm accidentally kind of like making the pitch for the Illuminati. Maybe they should hire me, but like I don't know. I don't know. I mean, and then you could argue, well, that's just the entire thing is a frivolous pursuit. And, if we were a peaceful society and in communion with God, you wouldn't care if you had iPhones or not. You'd just be enjoying, the Garden of Eden. Actually, it kind of comes back to Garden of Eden. It's like, yeah, all of this is a departure. You're trying to build Eden, but what if you were given Eden in the first place? So I don't know.
It is interesting that like you bring up the military because there also is like the number one defense industry, which is really an attack industry. Um, in the UK is represented in the Pilgrim Society. So these guys are going to make decisions on like international affairs that are going to benefit themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tax money will move to defense and to banking and things
Yeah.
like that.
So yeah, I don't think they want to progress humanity forward, but I think their desires yield to weapons technology, and the weapons technology requires technological innovation. I don't, which
They
one?
just want to control it. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
really
not
it.
good.
Like
It's not good, but their desire for control results in the invention of tools for control, and those inventions often trickle down to the rest of society. It, yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag.
yeah, I mean, I think that the aristocrats are anti technological advance to a certain extent of it, as long as it doesn't serve them. But so many of these things, phones and internet, trying to think what else, cars, trains, advances in manufacturing, they weren't financed or supported by aristocrats. At least in the Western world, were not supported by aristocrats. I don't think they were financed. They were all by independent inventors or things like that. If you look back, I think that's telling.
Hmm. Um, what's the fifth slide? You get that demonic painting.
Fifth slide. Yeah, that's the lovely one of King Charles III with
That shit
the
was
monarch on his
so
shoulder.
fucked.
Yeah, monarch butterfly, right? And he's holding a sword too, and it's red, and I think that's really kind of telling.
That is a
But
that is a demonic painting. Well,
yeah, he's a malevolent person, I think.
um,
much more involved in the Epstein situation than publicly divulges the inside. This is the so-called new word, the T on that guy, which is, have you heard that term before?
No, I
You
was
have the
gonna say,
T. It's like the gossip or whatever. Is that he and his brother were involved, but his brother had damning pictures of it, so he couldn't get away from it. But
um, I really got to piss, so you're gonna tell me
okay, go.
where to find you. But we still have another hour. Do you want to get to? I'm Jones because I enjoyed the Knights of Malta one. I actually want to see the press. We can keep just shooting the shit. I don't care. But I
Let's
also,
go to the slides. Go
yeah. All
take a
right, all
leak,
right, all
and
right,
we'll
all right. I'm gonna go to the
we'll do the
bathroom. You tell
slide.
everyone where to find you.
Yeah, William Ramsey Investigates. You can check out my episodes. Done a lot of presentations on the Pilgrim Society, Knights of Malta, other stuff. The kind of weird post-war book, Catcher in the Rye. I've done. So you can check it out there. Also, my Patreon, I have 5 documentaries, 5 books. You can get my books on Amazon under William Ramsey, or you can get signed copies through my website, williamramseyinvestigates.com. And yeah, I've just been busy. I put out a bunch of new episodes. I'm trying to restream a lot of my stuff back on more favorable websites or platforms. So Rumble, Rockfin, and X Twitter. I'm on X Twitter posting pretty often. And I found it a good place to actually listen to and watch videos because there's not as many ads. YouTube is a disaster. They'll actually roll ads on YouTube that don't stop unless you actually manually click it. And so that's something else. And yeah, so there's a lot going on. I've had a lot of guests on recently on a lot of different subjects. And you can check those out. William Ramsey Investigates podcast. I was on Spotify. I left Spotify. I'm now hosted on Spreaker. And I've done a lot of independent research type things like this. This is kind of, and a lot of slideshows actually. So this is kind of like one of the slideshows with the kind of background on stuff, things like that.
Thank you,
But
sir.
there's a lot of visuals. I've learned a lot more about the Knights of Malta. I found the Knights of Malta headquarters in Rome, and so it has an interesting background. So that's pretty cool. They have their own kind of church and headquarters kind of in the city of Rome, the eternal, so-called eternal city. I don't think it's in the Vatican per se, but it's pretty close. It's overlooks the Tiber. That's the river that goes to Rome.
I don't doubt anything at this point.
But another kind of group with a lot of heritage that goes up to the present, much like the Pilgrim Society, actually.
I would like. Actually, I'm gonna stop the. I'm gonna shut my mouth up and let's get to the presentation. I'm gonna keep.
All right, let's go.
All right,
this is it. I mean, we talked about technology. So the first
Yeah.
slide, if you bring up the first slide, I don't know if I can see it on my side, but the first slide is the Pilgrim. He's going. The lion symbolizes Great Britain. The eagle is the U.S. And he's headed off to Canterbury or whatever. But you see the technology facilitating the car, the boat, the train. And the motto is Hic et Ubique, which is Latin for here and everywhere. So you see this kind of far-ranging thing, this kind of same theme, like building up over the future. It's the same theme in the Pilgrims. And so that's the logo. You see that like the painting is the same one there. Are you seeing slide 4?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And you'll see this is like their website, the Pilgrims of Great Britain. Who is the patron? His Majesty the King. But then you see all this landed gentry right underneath him, Lord Stirrup, who we can go into. But I'll show a slide of him. It's a very interesting guy, but very much involved in Iraq, Afghanistan. So all these guys who are involved in the Pilgrim Society are also in these things. But he is a Knight Companion Order of the Garter, which is a really high order within the British aristocracy. And usually garter means you're wearing something around, like Opus Dei, who's the Catholic kind of order. They will literally wear a garter, which is a metal roundabout on their leg. And they've made an oath of loyalty to the king. and that's what that garter is. So he's a member. Stirrup is a member of that garter. Barlow and Barton, these are like guys. Bank of England, like just crazy stuff. KPMG and things like that, like huge financial groups. You mentioned this picture of King Charles III holding, the sword. So it's military, right? He's wearing military regalia. So I think he's saying he's a militant in his king. And then there's the very notable standout monarch butterfly. So I think he's also saying mind control. He's saying that, and that's really, it's really the force multiplier of all things is propaganda and mind control, because you're not actually using material goods. You're just raping people's minds and making them think something else that can lead to their own destruction. You don't even have to apply any political force. But so I think that's important. But he's the one behind the World Economic Forum, King Charles III. This is him with Schwab, 1992. This is him in the king, his king regalia, holding the world in his hands, purple, like Star of India, this all stuff. This is when I think it was done. But he also, this is the same kind of color. If you notice, the king of the Great Reset, King Charles III, is wearing that same color of his painting, right? Pretty interesting. So I think that's all intentional. So, but this is the Great Reset, sustainable markets and stuff. He announced, this is kind of his announce, the Great Reset's been started June 3rd, 2020. Pretty interesting considering what happened globally at the same time, right? And he's also a member of the Magic Circle, right? So he's in there. It's pretty interesting that he's a member. This is kind of a secret group. It actually ties into Eyes Wide Shut, because at the end of Eyes Wide Shut, which has all these themes of secret societies, child rape, sex magic, all that stuff, there is the same symbol is in there. So I think Kubrick and all these other people, it's all heraldry symbols throughout the whole film. So I think he's showing what the aristocrats are up to, and then he subsequently died. But this was the Magic Circle, Streets of Cairo. It was Lord Mountbatten, who was a known pederast. He liked boys, he liked teen boys. That was kind of his thing. When he was blown up by the IRA after off the coast of Ireland, he was with like 3 teenage boys or something kind of creepy. But this was Lord Mountbatten was Charles III's mentor. Like, he looked up to him. It was Lord Mountbatten who persuaded his nephew, King Charles III, to apply for membership of the society, and it was Depass who provided the cups and balls. So he's learning trickery and stuff like that. The age of convenience is over. That's what he's telling the subjects, right? So he's the aristocrats. And then the coronation of King Charles, you'll see this here on May 2023. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years. Abbey of Westminster, the heraldry that's very important to these guys, and the Green Man. So he's literally like the Green Man, and we'll see this later. So this is not Christian. This is kind of paganism. And here's King Charles with, that's Robert Maxwell, right? So that's a notorious figure. Here he is with Kissinger. Here he is with another, like Biden. I don't know which Biden that is. One of the interesting things about Charles that he did is he prorogued. So basically, he made decisions above and beyond Parliament. And I think that was an expression of his latent power, really, over the House of Lords and Commons. So it was the first time in 7 decades that somebody prorogued in there. And just shows that the king owns all the land in the Commonwealth, by the way. A lot of people think like they can't see past the kind of, parliamentary stuff. The king makes a decision, they do it. And he probably installs all the prime ministers. And you can watch, there's a kind of a video of Trudeau, who's no longer prime minister, but he made a loyalty oath to the queen. That's incredible. Like, he basically was just massively obedient to her through this loyalty oath before he took power. This is from Secrets Unspeaks, but it's interesting. There's a video of Queen Elizabeth II fully in Druid regalia, and so that's something we could watch. But it was interesting when the king got coronated, the head of the Pilgrim Society. The women wore white, which is very different. This was supposedly in conformance with more of a Druid ceremony than a Christian ceremony. And there he is with Camilla. I mean, the battles within the King Church with Diana were just really something like that, something else. But on the red, so you see that kind of red themed red and all that stuff red. If you watch Eyes Wide Shut, everything takes place
Yeah.
on a red carpet. Even at the end, the billiards,
The
the
pool.
game,
Yeah.
at the pool table usually is green, but that one
Yeah.
was red.
And he's knocking on it 3 times like the guy in red did.
Yeah, oh, it's all very. And there we go.
Mm.
So there's the queen on red. She's got all her regalia, and then at the end of Eyes Wide Shut, you see all the old kind of aristocratic things that he's associated with his parents and stuff like that. I don't think you realize what kind of trouble you were in. Red theme, and then we go back to the red, right? So we go back to Charles.
That's
People
the
have said,
wildest shit. Yeah,
yeah, Charles is literally, if you put this together, there's some kind of like demonic apparition. I think there's something to it, whether it's you know this demon being or whatever. The same guy who did this painting did Kevin Spacey, who has kind of very sinister background. We could talk about that. A lot of people don't know this, but Charles is one of his forebears is Vlad the Impaler, right? The original Dracula, Count Dracula, Dracul. He actually, there's a video of him bragging about it, like he thinks it's funny. He also, another thing that he did is he used bona vacantia. So if there's like a tax thing where somebody doesn't pay their taxes or the land isn't claimed, it escheats back to the state, back to him. So he literally did it. King Charles secretly profiting from the assets of dead citizens, assets of thousands of people. So he's not like granting this beneficent guys to his servants, like, give me your money.
He's the king.
Slaves.
Of course he is.
Yeah. This guy, Russ Jones, is saying, my mom's stepdad died in 2007. He assumed his house and assets will go to my mom automatically, so he left no will. This is a big mistake, like write a will. So my mom got nothing. Instead, Prince Charles got the lot, $400K. Scam. I'm glad it's being reported. So, like, he'll take it back. And this is his buddy, Savile, necrophiliac and pedophile. Just like, I don't know what he did that was any good. Like, he was just like a pedophile ring.
Savile is as dark as you get.
Just incredible. Knight of Malta too, really crazy. I couldn't find a membership to the Pilgrim Society, but like Savile could just walk into Buckingham Palace unannounced. They wouldn't check his backpack or anything. There's like videos of him just going like right through security. Just like, oh, Jim's here. Jim will fix it.
That's
weird connections between Savile and the Ripper, the Yorkshire Ripper. There's a picture of Savile with the Yorkshire Ripper. This is him right here. And then it was the Yorkshire Ripper. One of the victims was found close to a property of Savile's. Like, you can't make it up. There's Savile with Princess Diana. Like, they kind of know these guys are evil. There's Savile with Charles's father, the Duke of Buckingham or whatever it was. This is the guy on the right who said, I wish I could be reborn as a virus. Yeah, to kill everyone. Savile. This is Savile's death. Savile was,
there you told us last time. Yeah, he was born. Yeah, buried at an angle.
35 degrees. So this is the background of the Pilgrim Society. This is the guy who's running in this family. But these are kind of like some of these people. This woman is the head of like Bull or Baroness, who's head honcho in the Pilgrim Society. She's the head of all these different organizations, U.S. intelligence, MI5. She saw a rise. She was there for the terrorist bombing 7/7, required a coordinated response. 7/7 is very dicey, by the way.
Yeah, that was there. Was that 2002? I'm looking it up.
I think it sounds right. Maybe it was 2007.
It was no,
2005.
Okay, because I thought it was like I remember it being right after 9/11. I mean, I was only 10. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with that story too.
Yeah, those guys were
hapless. Dicey. The so-called terrorists went off to, I think, a place called Pelican Bay, and then they got shot by the government.
Yeah, so it seemed like it was like a shitty Hey,
super
Britain got
shady.
attacked too. Come on in. We're going
Yeah,
to Iraq. Hey, they got
yeah,
something too. It's yeah,
yeah. No,
it's just
and
sloppy.
the sophistication of the bombs was not something that a little rookie would do. Like they were super high powered.
Yeah, it's like
There
the
was, I mean, the whole Bush administration and stuff.
yeah
It's not just 9/11. There's all kinds of shady stuff that went
everything.
on.
I mean, yeah, it's again, it just the implications are just so
It's
daunting
another show.
around
Like I've done a show on like the occult numerology. Well, not a show. I wrote an article. Maybe I should repost
around
it.
9/11.
All the weird numerology of all these weird events. 7/7. Like
Yeah, yeah,
Netanyahu
yeah. I
was
mean,
in London for the London bombings. I don't know
wow.
if you know that. So like he saw that happen, and then 10/7 happens, and who does it benefit?
Yeah,
Netanyahu, right?
yeah. I
Like this
mean,
whole
it's
like, that's a whole nother show. He's lying. They're lying to everybody, and the black propagandists in the U.S. are lying to the American people about it. Hamas is this is on the record. You could see Ron Paul saying Israel created Hamas. Like he's in Congress saying, like telling people like 10, 15 years. Guy tells the truth all the time, and nobody listens to him. He's like, the Israeli government and Israel created Hamas as a counterbalance to the
uh-huh.
PLO. They don't like the PLO. Hamas, interestingly, has the same doctrines as the hardliners of Israel, which is no two-state solution. Wow, what a thought. Anyway, it's a side. Yeah, these are like the offspring. Like you talk
Ian
about these
Sherman.
aristocrats and things like that. Harriman's son's involved in this, and I mean the kind of stuff he was involved in: railroad stuff, shootings, um, all kinds of skullduggery, and then his daughter, Beryl Hammond, close to H.W. Bush, right? So Herbert Walker. These are all kind of ties into the American aristocracy. That was what I was trying to put together with this slideshow, is to show this whole notion that the U.S. doesn't have an aristocracy is patently false and deceptive. And these guys have all. And J.P. Morgan was involved in the Pilgrim Society. But one of the interesting things is some of these offspring have all these other associations. So this guy in the Pilgrim Society is also the Society of Cincinnati, Legion of Honor, Sons of the American Revolution, all kinds of clubs, highly exclusive clam bake club, all these other things that people like me have no clue about. Like I'm kind of like the Groucho Marx. I have the Groucho Marx kind of doctrine or axiom, which is I would never be a part of a club that would allow me in as a member.
That's a fair point.
That's funny. It's a funny question. There's a video of him saying that too. Groucho Marx, pretty funny guy.
Any yeah, any secret society that tried to like fold up Tommy's podcast as their propaganda arm, I'd be like, hey, I'm flattered, but y'all are retarded.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be peed on. Thank you, or
No,
worse,
yeah.
whatever.
I don't want anyone that
Um,
wants to be involved with me. I'm like, you got issues.
right. Like you have to sell out. Like you have to. I think the whole concept of selling your soul, like to be in some of these societies, you really do. Like, wow. I mean, you have to go through some hardcore stuff. If you, I think Rosenbaum was the guy who filmed one of the initiations at Skull and Bones, where they're all dressed up in masks, screaming at the people, putting them through traumatic, PTSD. That's kind of the way in, almost like a fraternity does, where they haze
Mhm.
people. That's the whole thing about hazing. It's not just that these people are I mean, sadists, which they are, but it's part of the process of getting into the system. As they
No, it
screw with
is.
your mind.
It is. I mean, I pledged up a fraternity in South Georgia. I mean, listen, there is logic behind it. It's
Yeah,
retarded. I mean, but man, you can take people and bond them together. I'm still closer to those guys who I haven't seen in 15 years. I'm still closer to them than friends from like high school and middle school. There is something too.
that's why they do it.
Yeah, it's a striking an iron. You add heat and pressure, and then you can change it. And then once it cools, the change is there forever.
William Mellon, Pilgrim Society, Whitney family. Whitney is involved. Like they're over the Paines and JFK. So the Whitney thing, also with this heraldic regalia, which ties back into Eyes Wide Shut. John J. Whitney was really kind of the Elon Musk, I suppose, of his era, all involved in all kinds of stuff. Ambassador of the United Kingdom, automatic membership in Pilgrims, and the Whitney, they come from the people who did the cotton gin, right? If you remember, he put the cotton through, takes
Mm-hmm.
all the seeds out. So that was their original money, and then they expanded into owning everything. And if you remember Pratt and Whitney, they
Mm-hmm.
were the ones who did the helicopters for Vietnam, so they're making money off the
They
war.
still do engines, Pratt and Whitney engines for
Yeah,
I think the F-22.
yeah, airplanes,
Rolls-Royce and Pratt and
defense.
Whitney are the two big Air Force engine makers.
John Hay, that's the father of these guys. So this kind of aristocracy, you can read about them simply on Wikipedia. This is all it is. And one of them, I think, married Gore, so she married into the Whitney family. Jacob Schiff, known banker, financier, supporter of Trotsky, right? A real name is Lev Bronstein, but a lot of these guys who like were involved, he kind of financed the overthrow of the Romanovs in Russia, and that's a whole nother story, but it is interesting. Livingston tie in with the I think I showed these
Malta,
ones
yeah.
last night of Malta. Social register, a lot of people don't know this, but all these families on the Pilgrim Society are involved in this kind of social register. So they're like, sons of people on the Mayflower and all this stuff. This is the Order of the Garter, loyalty to the King, and Windsor Castle in 1906, right around the time of Pilgrim Society. Just this is like the stuff that goes on in there, and heraldry. So I kind of went into this heraldry type stuff, but then Order of Garter, encircle their discussion with the Garter. You're allowed, so the heraldry, they have all kinds of rules of what you're allowed to put on. Like for people who don't have this, it's kind of ridiculous, but they have their own like little rules and stuff like that. But this was the former prime minister,
Put on what I mean,
like their heraldry
regalia
things,
got
like
it.
yeah, like
You can't wear that
so you can't do
badge.
this, you
Got
can
it.
do this, so this is yours. You're able to put this, and you can go back to the king and see his heraldry on this, and it's just like super ornate, you know. So that's King Charles's. But like some of these guys are all Pilgrim Society. This is John Major, and this is kind of his heraldry. And Robert Worcester. Why is this guy important? He's a founding member. He's on the website. This is an American who is also British, but he's also involved in opinion research and doing polls. So this is kind of like the propaganda
Robert
arm. And he's
Worcester.
from Kansas City, Missouri, but he has his Knight of the British Empire. They have all these little
Robert
acronyms for their stuff.
Googling it. Robert
One
Worcester.
of the
Yeah.
interesting, sorry, go ahead.
So no, I was you said his name. Yeah, I googled it. Yeah. No,
Robert
sorry.
Worcester.
Yeah.
So these are the part of the Anglo American. One of the interesting things is the tie into Pilgrim Society. This guy's a member of the Pilgrim Society, Reverend Robert Griffith Jones. He's also the master of the Temple Church in the very center of the city of London, like the interior part of London proper, millions of people. The city of London is its own kind of cutout from the interior part of London. This is the center of it, this is the Temple Church, and the entire barristry. It's so much different than the U.S., where you to become a member of the bar, you go through the states. There, you have four inn houses, two of which come out of this Temple Church, and two others, but they're all tied to the king. They're all tied to the British aristocracy, and so you to become a barrister, you have to go through at least one of these things. So you're always tied to the aristocracy. It's so much different than the state. So they call them the Inns of Court, and
Well,
two of them are tied to this Temple Church,
it kind of
which
seems more like they're just perfect extensions then of the power elite. It's this
exactly,
like the military where it's like, yeah, your job isn't to you're not this. We don't care what you think. Your job is to follow orders, which is doesn't matter what you think. The president says do this, you do that. They seems like they have that with lawyers though. They're just
no
extensions.
question.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no question. Keir Starmer came up through the system,
Yeah,
right?
of
So he
course he
came up
did.
as a barrister.
Of course he did.
And there's a
Oh,
picture that I think has been verified of him with Savile. Have you seen the picture of him
yeah,
with
there's no
Savile?
outliers there.
Yeah,
There's no Trump in the UK. They
yeah,
again, you got to marvel at it. They prune any resistance when it's still a seed.
yeah. And any resistance, or they, maintain the little seedling all the way to the top. And Keir
Yeah, and
Starmer's an
if
example.
resistance does make it, yeah, and if there is a resistance, it is absolutely another cutout.
Yeah, there's another guy to go on. which we'll find. This is really an incredible thing because we're going to get to Gandhi, which
Oh
is
God.
really, this is like the secret history of the British Empire in a lot of ways. It goes through the Pilgrim. This guy's a Pilgrim Society member. You can go to the website today and see Reverend Robert Griffith Jones, Master of the Temple. This is based on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, right, which supposedly has the place where Christ was born. Oh no, he was where he was crucified, right, in the inner part in Jerusalem. But this guy's interesting. He's written books on, I think it was the Da Vinci Code. So he kind of ties in like this is kind of a Da Vinci Code kind of cut this thing. But he's what's the other thing? Like he's chaplain. This is the church been there for 850 years, right? I mean, it's just incredible stuff. Talk goes back to William Marshall, these other knights. These are his books. Tied to Rosslyn Chapel. That's the end of the Da Vinci Code, takes place in Rosslyn Chapel, which is supposedly like a
Mm-hmm.
Templar holdout, not Knights of Malta, but this there's all kinds of mysteries in there. But I think this guy's wearing this kind of like something about him is the Templar group. This is the guy I was talking about, Jock Stirrup. This is a guy who's got all, I mean, he's like a Knight of the Garter. He's a member of the Pilgrim Society, but he's part of the RAF, fighting in Taliban, chief of the air staff. But he's also a Society of the Knights of the Round Table, a Pilgrim Society, all this other stuff. But the Knights of the Round Table is another group. British society exists to perpetuate the name and fame of King Arthur and the ideals for which he stood. And it's in Mayfair. Piers Coleman. I couldn't tell if these Coleman people. I read this book about the Pilgrim Society and Public Diplomacy, 1895. There's a Prime Minister Churchill talking to the Pilgrim Society in 1941, right at the beginning, kind of World War II. So this is like another part of the thing to, make sure the U.S. is on board with the World War II stuff. This is another Pilgrim Society member at the Royal Institute of International Affairs, otherwise known as Chatham House, but she's also a member of the Wellcome Trust. This is all kind of stuff that ties
And
into Bill
COVID.
and Gates Foundation and
Yeah.
COVID, right? Like this is the nexus of power of like a lot of this stuff and this overlapping things. But that's my first set of slides. Let me go to the second set where things get interesting.
I mean, I've read so much about just all these power structures and nexuses, really all my life, but specifically the last 5 years of the body, and it's still, I still see shit that I just go, God.
They've gotten away with it right in
Yeah,
front of
yeah,
us, like
just
wow.
it's at a certain point. I mean, I don't mean to like laugh because they're demons from hell, but I mean, sometimes you have to chuckle and be like, it is.
This is that guy. This is the master of the temple. This is the temple house right here, temple church, right? This is the core of this is the basis for two Inns of Court in the UK. It's still there. You can go into it. And here is the old queen with her husband at the temple church, 2008. So dressed in blue, which is interesting. But the inner temple, so this is kind of like what I was talking about. The inner temple is the notion that this church is part of the association, Inns of Court, exclusive right to call students to practice law at the Bar of England and Wales. So this is kind of there. So you can see this inner temple connected to the temple church. And like I said, Edinburgh, Rosslyn Chapel is connected to this temple church. Da Vinci Codes. There's Jock Stirrup. Mentioned him earlier. This is the coronation of the king. And that's Jock Stirrup right on the right, who's a member of the Pilgrim Society. He's holding the great sword of state for the king, for King Charles III. This is the guy involved in the Pilgrim Society. So all these people in the U.S. are really just right there, smack dab in the middle of the king and the British aristocracy. There's no question about it. This is the Marquis of Londonderry holding the sword of state. I mean, this was an interesting thing. This is from Wake the Dead, but basically there was a guy Employed by the English monarchy, he was called the Keeper of the Heads, and his job was to display the severed heads of rebellious individuals who dared to disagree with authority, meant to instill fear and compliance in the minds of onlookers. So this whole notion of like
Jesus.
nipping him at the bud
Yeah.
is real. They literally,
Literal
yeah,
nip at fucking the butt of the brain that's causing problems.
Keeper of the Heads, and the really brutal stuff. Like if you listen to like, I think Wallace was the guy who was the rebel Scott guy. I think there was this Mel Gibson movie about him.
William Wallace.
William Wallace, thank you. Yeah, but they drew and quartered him in London. They dragged him back to London and like did the most vicious stuff. So their enemies, they'll get you. This is John Major. I mentioned him earlier, but he's making the sign of secret knowledge. This is all intentional, right? He's making that secret hand sign. I have the secret knowledge right to your face, which he does have the secret knowledge. Arthur Conan Doyle, Pilgrim Society member, also Order of St. John. So overlapping memberships, right? So that's St. John is the Knights of Malta, by the way. And let's see where we at. Anglo-Utopian Dreams, Royal Institute of Inter Affairs, which this woman has like this whole Anglo, goes back to the Rhodes Trust and Milner, right? So this is from Anglo-Utopian Dreams, this paper that I read. But the secret society, that was 1891, so 10 years earlier, these people flopped over to the Chatham House, which this woman who's involved in the Wellcome Trust, which I showed earlier, is a part of. So you see the Rhodes Society, Milner, Chatham House, and Pilgrims together, right? That's the point of this page. That's why I'm showing this. There's this old kind of notion. This is called the stone of sin, or whatever it's known as. Every British monarch has taken the oath under this magic stone that supposedly comes from the Middle East or comes from Israel, right? And it's called the Stone of Scarn or something like that. Do you see that stone underneath that?
No,
They
it
had to
looks
drag the.
like a throne.
Yeah, so you
Oh,
see
the
the
big.
throne. There's like a big rock. There's a big
It's
rock.
yeah. I didn't realize because it's all sepia. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is like part of the history of this. This stone is like very important. The stone of, when Charles got when he became king, when he was his coronation, there was this weird sequence where this strange black figure in a robe just walked through in the back, and then people noticed it, and it's kind of like, what does it mean?
Yeah, none of that's accidental.
Yeah,
He didn't just waltz in there. That's
it's either I think a symbol of death or like the Reaper or something.
it's clearly it's you can't just get that close to that kind of. That'd be like if somebody walked right between like Trump and the judge during inauguration. You wouldn't be like, "Who's that guy?" You'd be like, "That." They'd shoot him if he was a problem.
Right. Mentioned Mountbatten. This is the mentor of Charles III. They're pictured together in all their military regalia. And the title of this is Lord Mountbatten's Lust for Young Boys. And somebody writes, like, he is unfit to direct any sort of military operations because of this condition. So this is part of like the aristocracy. And there's a good book called The Mountbattens by Lowney. Recommend that. Chatham House, just mentioned that woman was part of it. Chatham House is the Royal Institute of International Affairs. They almost made this bimbo like she was on their website. This is their almost president. One of the interesting things about Chatham House is who's their patron. His Majesty King Charles III serves as patron of the
Oh,
institute, providing the benefit and formal support through a royal charter, though he has no official governance. He's not officially governing; he just patronizes. He's just the patron and pays for everything. So, like, you literally can see Charles over the Milner Rhodes Society and all these people. This is a nexus thing, like people who become Rhodes scholars and stuff like that. It's part of the whole Pilgrims centralization stuff. It's really incredible. And this is her. This is her again, man. You can go to the website, the Chatham House. Guess who Mark Carney is? He was on Chatham House. Does that name sound familiar to you?
Carney.
That's the new Prime Minister of Canada.
Oh,
That's him right there. So you see this woman's Pilgrim Society connected to Rhodes, connected to Milner, connected to Royal Institute of Inter Affairs. So is he. He gets promoted. I don't even think they elected him. He's literally been the prime minister of Canada. It's incredible. I made this slideshow last year, by the way. So you can see, like, this is like ties into how important this society is. They literally made, there's John Major. I just mentioned him earlier too, the former thing. So these guys are all in some kind of stable. Crazy. Baroness Manningham Buller, Pilgrim Society, chair of the Welcomes Trust Board of Governors 2015 to 2021. What happened in 2020? What happened in 2021? Overlaps with all this stuff. There's Charles at the member of the Magic Circle. This is all symbolic. These are all the signs of the zodiac, by the way, behind them. And so this is what it looks like in there. They have the two towers or the two pillars, right? Just like Boaz and Jachin. So you see the occultism, like this is blatant occult. I know the occult. Close up of the Magic Circle logo. We'll see this later. This is actually their doors to a place. There's Charles III is the Green Man. This is the invisible enemy. It just shows all of these kind of nexus points. It's from Josephine Cashman. How the British invented communism, and the overlapping kind of crazy stuff. She had some, I don't really have to. The interesting thing is that Charles III is involved in this Terra Carta, so it's a play on the Magna Carta. So this is like his kind of pagan view. This is not a Christian guy, by the way. I've never seen him do it. But this is by the Prince of Wales. This is by King Charles III for nature, people, and planet. This is the sustainability, sustainable stuff. Somebody did a repetition analysis, the stuff he repeats: global, private, humankind, future, but killbox over humanity.
Yeah.
Like the COVID killbox pandemic was a military status campaign.
I watched the Catherine Rod. I've seen her presentation on that.
Charles designs Healing Garden. Prince hopes to ease Britain's rift by using sacred geometry and symbolism at Chelsea Flower Show. So he's into sacred geometry and symbolism. This is like the COVID-19. This is from the WEF. COVID-19's test of social responsibility. This is another kind of group here. This is called the wolf in sheep's clothing of the, what's the name of this group? It's I'm totally blanking. It's another secret society, but they kind of believe in slow growth over time. But you can see them hammering the world. Like they literally have enough stuff. I mean, I think some of these other prime ministers are part of this group. Interesting overlay between pictures of Obama, who has royal blood, and Charles. But these are the Pilgrim membership lists that were divulged in London. And you'll see this. One is Tucker Carlson's right there. Tucker S.M. Carlson. So that's what I'm. Pilgrims, member rules, Tucker Carlson. He's been a member at least from 2002 to 2014. And you can actually go see this on the Institute for the Study of Globalization and Covert Politics website, because that's where I found it, or somebody sent it to me. And it just goes on Tucker Carlson's background, some of these other members. Let's see, where are we at? Kissinger, Paul Volcker was the head of the Fed, I think, at one point. And just all these names: Pillsbury, Roosevelt. Ties into the Metropolitan Club downtown. But here's the kicker. This guy, this is an early picture of barrister Mahatma. His real name was Mohandas Gandhi, right? He became a Mahatma, but he went to London as a kid and became a lawyer. 10 days after his arrival, he joined the Inner Temple, one of the 4 London law colleges, the Temple, right, based upon the Temple Church. So that's really an incredible thing when you consider that he was the one who became the helm of India when the Great Britain handed it back to independence for, I think it was 1947 or something like that. Prince Charles, the Sustainable Prince, Joan Vion wrote about him. United Nations Global Straitjacket. This is 1999. I think she had a good beat on him of what his future portended. You can see that on archive.org. And then some of these other Mont Pelerin Society overlaps with this. Interesting Pilgrim Society in the news was this guy, Woody Johnson, is a member of the Pilgrim Society. and I think he fought because he was an ambassador to Britain, and then he fired. I forgot who he fired. He fired the coach of the Jets, which he owns, and it was kind of interesting. Like the backstory is like this dude is a member of the Pilgrim Society. I think they installed some other dude. Just other. I mean, it just goes on. COVID vaccine. Jacinda Ardern. She became a dame after all of her work in New Zealand, rolling out the shot and stuff like that. Liz Churchill discussing this retarded girl with the teeth received an award from the royals. She literally committed genocide against her own people. Haddleskog, another BA Systems is the big defense industry.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like the
yeah.
ties to the Pilgrims is the BAE Systems. This is the other defense element. Then Gresham College, these other things overlap. This is what it looks like from outside. This I think is the picture of headquarters for something. I forgot what it was. But then this is the other SRI, born at Bohemian Grove. Both SRI and Bohemian Grove have been historically dominated by chiefly Pilgrim Society members and their associates. So that's basically it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information, but a lot of connections. Like you'll never hear all this stuff in kind of American media at all. You never hear it.
I would love to see like a. I would love to see someone lay out all these secret societies and see how they're mapped together. Like right, like what you've done with this and with the Knights of Malta, where you show everything within it. I would almost like to. It's like these are each states, like Knights of whatever. It's Georgia, and this is Texas, and you're showing all the different counties. I'd love to see someone zoom out and put the states together, because I would imagine that all of these things interface or overlap. Knights of Malta, Pilgrim Society, CFR, Club of Rome, 300. I would imagine that they all kind of overlap. Then again, there's probably nothing published about any of that. That I would imagine
Right.
that's all off the books. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have their own membership. There's actually a couple books about the Pilgrim Society that you can buy from the Pilgrim Society that was written about the membership. But I'd have to have that shipped out to me. But a lot of the stuff, it's just not. They just don't want to mention it. It's really their power structure and keep it to themselves. Even though there's these public websites and information that you can get, a lot of these membership lists are compiled by researchers. It's not from them, Malta and Pilgrim Society. It's incredible, but that's the way the world has really been run. I mean, the victors were the Anglo Americans in both world wars. Well, America definitely was the victor in World War II. I don't know if the Great Britain got away unscathed, but
It's one of the things that I don't know if it's some form of just like mental resignation or but when you find out how old these things are and how it's always been that way, there is a part of me that I start to go, well, if it's always been this way, it's nothing new, so it's nothing to like freak out about. It's like, which is like a weird pill to swallow to be like, we've always been run by satanic pedophiles, but like, it's not new.
goes way back. I mean, you don't know how far back it goes. I
No,
mean,
you
you can go
don't.
back to like the Hellfire Society, which was also a Hellfire Club, excuse me, which is like a monk. Like externally they called themselves the monks of Medmenham, but they were doing all kinds of dark stuff, and that involved Franklin. So that's like 200 years ago, and bringing prostitutes and all this, very debauched stuff. But like, this isn't just the Anglo man. You can go to. I've done a show recently on what's called the Dutroux affair, but it really involved the aristocracy of Belgium. It involved the whole aristocracy were trafficking in kids, and literally Dutroux was kind of like a sex trafficker for these guys, and it went all the way to the king. It went all the way to the king of Belgium, and who cannot be prosecuted, right? So he could. It's not somebody you can take to court because he's the king, and he was kind of like it just sounds like the aristocracy was trafficking in kids, like they were raping kids and black magic and murder. And once that kind of came to the surface, there was this huge cover up, almost like the JFK cover up, where people started dying. Like there were 25 people around this whole Dutroux affair who died, and then the prosecutions were bungled, so there was no real prosecutions like Epstein, because it's kind of the same thing here, right? So you can say like these kind of like it's just endemic. You're right. It's systemic and endemic. And I don't know how endemic and systemic it was in the US, but in these other societies, like I think that the sexual blackmail, black magic element was really endemic to their whole society, the whole Belgian society. And they just saw one little piece of it once these kids once Dutroux got busted, who probably wasn't supposed to be busted, who had, traveling around 4 houses, rooms with like genetic material from 50 different men. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, you don't even want to know what's going on.
Just like the
Crazy.
Knights of Malta, it's just the same conclusion after this presentation. I just go, yeah, get right with God. It's kind of my only thought.
I think it ties into a biblical worldview. Like you're literally up against, power in high
The,
places or evil deeds in high places and stuff like that. That probably,
principalities, yeah, it's
yeah, that these guys are doing crazy stuff. Like Charles III is not clean, man. That guy is very dark. It's very, very dark. And he's the one he can exercise power. I mean, it's amazing that I put this, well, to me, that I put this slideshow together with this guy Carney, who I didn't know at the time, who literally just got installed
yeah,
as the PM of
yeah,
Canada.
that's yeah.
Like this is from last year. Where is that? Was it the one in the back? But yeah, just like just goes right into your theme of like the stable of loyalists get promoted, and then the ones who speak out are JFK, like their secret society is not good. You get your head blown off. Like, I mean, I've heard people talk about that. Like JFK was not very healthy. He had to take
No,
drugs, and I think
yeah,
he was
his
on
back was all messed
steroids.
up. Yeah,
And so they could have just poisoned him in the White House or done something. But I think they intentionally wanted to get him in public and
no,
blow
that
his
was a
head off of him.
lesson. Head
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
a brutal bullet, not even like to the heart, to the head, gory, and that's what they wanted to do to Trump.
Yeah, I think you're
They
right.
wanted
Yeah.
it on 4K. They didn't want it to be, oh, they whacked Trump and it kind of be some sanitized. They wanted brain matter. And I mean, just as gore, think like Saving.
And on
Private Ryan.
TV.
Yeah,
They
no,
wanted
they wanted
public
it. No,
spectacle.
they wanted it. Yeah.
One of the interesting things is like people knew it was going to happen. Like I think Victoria Newland said, I don't think Trump is going to be president. Like, how do you know this?
Yeah.
You know?
And all
And
those.
when it didn't happen, like all of the there was somebody at New York City in Times Square at the time who published like they didn't even report it on the news. So it's like they were prepped and ready, like breaking news, Trump is dead. Instead, they were like panicking, like
There was no, yeah, they didn't have the
they didn't have the
beat
cue.
script.
They didn't have the cue to do it, because it's
Yeah.
like we'll just keep going. I mean, it's huge news. Like it was a world change. It would have been a world changing event. Civil War, maybe. Who knows? Because there's a lot of loyalty. Like there's a lot more hardcore MAGA people who would have
No,
just
that would
been
have been
like,
an inflection. That would have been a
yeah,
Franz Ferdinand moment. That would have, yeah, that would have everything would have derailed after that.
yeah. I mean, I think like one of the interesting things, like I think I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but when Trump went to the memorial for Carter, I think I mentioned that in the last one, and I showed the Star of Jerusalem, the Cross of Jerusalem. Did I show
Yeah,
that to you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
On the
like
floor.
the thing is watching Melania cry. Like she's totally freaked out because these are all the people who plotted against Trump are right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. No, it's some weird thing where they all gotta appear together.
Yeah,
It is.
it's
It's like an
really incredible.
odd. It's like yeah.
It's it's
It's
it's
like
just a portent. It's just like filled with
it's
like
it's the
dread
first
and
Spider-Man where Peter Parker and the Green Goblin. Green Goblin's Peter Parker's best friend's dad. and they both kind of know each other, or those, and they have to go have Thanksgiving together. You can tell they're both like, I'm pretty sure we just battled it out. Yeah,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
they did. Because those are all Obama's people probably who put everything together, right? It's all the Democrat. I think one guy, Scott Ritter, said you got to check out the Secret Service because they're the ones who stood down, just like on JFK, right? So
Hmm.
that goes back to Department of Homeland Security and Mayorkas. I mean, it's incredible that these investigations are not going on. It's so bizarre that
I think
there
they're
isn't huge commissions going on.
I
Like,
think they're
what?
probably, and I don't want to be just some brain dead, you know, Trump's a genius, 5D chess, but I would imagine Trump's having some look. There's no
You would
way he
hope
didn't.
so. You would hope
Think
so.
about Trump doesn't take like a tweet reply night well. He doesn't. He doesn't. I mean, look what he did to Zelensky in the Oval Office. I logic would dictate he also doesn't take a bullet going by his ear well.
I think you're right. I
It's
think you're
just
right.
so there's something going on behind. I would imagine, and again, I don't want to be just assume that it's all 5D chess, but I mean, just basic. I would just say extrapolate from see how he interacts on Twitter. He doesn't take punches laying down. You would have to rationally scale it up and go, okay, what would happen if you grazed him with a bullet in front of his family?
Right.
I would imagine there's a proportionate response going on somewhere.
I would hope so.
I would
I
imagine.
would think that like when that administration came in, they should have come in with like 50,000 people in reserve for all those administrative bodies,
Yeah, just
FBI,
wipe it,
CIA,
just
and
wipe
just
the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah, just start brand new, get rid of everything. Do you know that the FBI, like its agents, there were 12,000 agents, but like the quote Biden administration unquote apportioned like 5,000 of those agents to track down Jay Caesars.
Yeah, there's something like 10% of, yeah.
No, I think it was like 33 or 40% of the entire thing
It-
was
yeah.
apportioned to do this thing that was about the stolen election. Like it's unbelievable. Like it's a coup, man. They pulled off a coup. And you enumerated and listed all the things that happened during that time is just
Which
incredible.
begs the question of like what is going on behind the scenes?
Yeah.
How did
You
he
had
how did
I
he
saw
how did he
sorry,
win again in November?
overwhelming support, I think the whole
I-
50-50 parity is a propaganda. And all
Yeah.
the polls are propaganda too. People can't figure
It's
that out.
probably like 90-10, and that's
You're
how.
probably
It's
right.
it's
It's
yeah.
all fake.
Yeah.
Everything's fake about
It's
them.
all fake
Everything's
and
fake
gay.
about them.
Yeah. Everything's
You
fake.
had Alex Craner on. One of my
Yeah.
favorite guys I listen to is
Yeah.
Alex Craner and Glenn Deason. But you had Craner on. He said in another show, I don't know if he said it on yours, but he said coming back through the Biden administration was like walking out of a horror film inside a theater and stepping out back into the light. And I was just like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, that's exactly what it was like for
Yeah.
me. Like, wow, when's this horror show going to stop, man?
It's fucked.
It's a great metaphor.
Yeah. Um,
Craner's awesome.
no, I
How many
love
times
that.
have you had him on?
I think he's come on once, or
Oh,
he just came on like last week or
right, right.
whenever. I think he'd been on once or twice before over the years. I think I know at least once because I think Tom Luongo introduced. He's like me and my buddy Alex, and I was like, he's been on my show before. Um, I like him. He's a cool
You've
guy.
had so many shows up. It's hard for me to remember all the shows. I was going through some of my old archives. I'm like, wow, I did that one.
Yeah,
I've missed like one of my shows dropped off too. Like I've had so many shows. Like, oh, I forgot to post that. Holy
yeah. No,
smokes!
I've hit like the upper limit of I've always had like a good memory, but I think I've hit the upper limit of like the number of like meaningful contacts you can keep isn't the number like 150 or something. And I've always been like, yeah, because I've done all these podcasts. I'm like, there's like an unlimited Rolodex in my mind. I've over the last year or two, I've started to like look back and be like, I don't even remember doing that show. Like
I
I'm
can't.
that
I
I'm
well, if it
yeah.
makes you feel better, I can't remember what I said on certain shows because I've done so many shows
No,
that
there's
I
like an
really,
overflow limit where I start
yeah,
going
yeah.
and
There's
I
a
know it's
hard
starting
drive amount.
it starts to overlap because I don't know what was a podcast, what was a video game stream, and what was a book I read, and what was a private conversation. So sometimes I'm like, I did it, and then I'm like, should I say that? Was that a private phone call? Like, I don't know. I'm like, did somebody tell me that off the record, or was that a show? And like,
I'm glad you're saying that because
uh,
my brain
yeah,
is in the
yeah,
same kind of state at times.
yeah,
Like,
and yeah.
yeah,
No, no, no. It's there's definitely a limit, and I'm a health. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've always had a good mind. I've always, read. I'm always no, and there's no. Don't feel bad. There's an
okay.
upper limit. It starts to overflow where you go, yeah, dude. I have no fucking idea. Like I don't even. Have you had this guy on, Tommy? I'm like, I'd search the archive. I,
Sound name sounds familiar.
Dude, I've done it before. I have to pull up the notes app on my computer and Control F, and I'll be like, yeah, a Craner, and I'll be like, oh shit, yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Hey Tommy, I came on your show years ago. I'll be
Sure.
like, how did you get this number? They'd be like, you gave it to me, and I'll be like, when? They'll be like 2020. I'm like, dude, that was I don't, that was 1,000 episodes ago, man. I'm like
What are you at now? 1700, 1800?
seven. This is 1708, I think.
Wow, that's really impressive, man.
Dude,
That's
they yeah,
amazing.
no, they yeah.
I'm impressed.
There's an overflow limit.
You have to maintain your archives. I've been really saving my old shows and everything and trying to archive
Oh,
it.
I
It's
do.
so important.
I have them on like multiple hard drives.
Yeah,
Not
good.
like
Good.
multi. I've like several friends in different states that have literally just been like, just put this in your gun safe, and it's
Yeah,
just like
smart.
it's like an external wrapped in a
Super
fireproof
smart.
bag, and I'm just like, leave it there. And if
Super
it's
smart.
just yeah, I have like compressed versions, like 480p, like low res, and I
Nice.
just have them all in like, and I've just handed them out to people. I'm like,
It's your legacy, dude. It's
well, it's also
amazing. Like
yeah,
you have a
there's
legacy.
yeah, and I
It's a
can't.
timestamp and historically important. You've had so many important guests on, holy smokes. But
Yeah,
like it's a timestamp for other people who will come back around. Like I did this archive of Visigoth, who sadly has passed away, Keith Hansen. But it was a timestamp of his time in the early
yeah.
internet and interviews and stuff.
Yeah, no, and the whole thing like documents COVID as it's unrolling. So like, yeah, no, I have them everywhere just because I'm like, I don't want to ever lose this stuff.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's actually priceless, dude. Believe it or not.
well, you can't redo them. I think
Can't
only
read it.
one time. I think it was once early on. Something fucked up with the recording, and it was just like it was like an early show. It wasn't whatever, but it was then that I realized like you couldn't because the way I do shows, right? There's no planning. It's just organic. Because of that, there's no it's not like it's not like you just read through this presentation. And if it wasn't recording, I could be like, could we do this again? And you'd come back on and read through the presentation. Because it's an actual conversation, if you lose it, there's no like, hey Will, do you think we could have that talk again? Like you can't fake the thing
Right.
we just did. It's you kind of remember, I'll be like, I'll act surprised that we both be
Right.
like, what is this? This
Yeah,
is
because you
gay.
react different ways
Yeah,
to
yeah,
new
you can't
information
redo it.
too. Yeah.
So because of that is why I've gone to such OCD lengths to I mean I have a giant like 1,000 pound gun safe right there just for there's no guns in it. It's for the podcast. And
Wow,
it's
that's
just
cool.
there's like it can like withstand like 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit for like five
Awesome.
hours straight or something. And it's got like yeah, it's because I'm just
That's
like
awesome.
I'm like there's no way to redo this. My next guest came in. We got to wrap this up.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thanks a lot for having me. It's great to be with
Dude,
you. I really appreciate it.
dude, I love chatting with you, man. Let's do more
Yeah.
of these presentations. I like them. They're mind bending. For everybody
I got a
listening,
good one. I got a good one on Catcher in the Rye. I think that'll blow your mind.
shoot me
I
a
got a
text.
good
Shoot me a
presentation.
text right now, just as a
Okay.
reminder, and we'll
Okay.
schedule
I'll
that.
send you my my slides too. I think you'll
Please
like it.
do.
All right,
For
bud.
everybody listening, please go in the
Peace.
description. Please go follow him on Twitter. Please go buy his books, Mr. Ramsey. Good catching up. Till next time, brother.
Peace.
Thank you so much.